and morning to our visitors, honorable members. Can I greet you, hoping that you had a good weekend. Now, I'm welcoming everybody who's in this platform, and I don't want to waste our time because I don't want to rush people for the time, because we know that when we're not physically, we also have challenges that we must get to the buses. I do welcome all who are in the platform, and by doing that, I will ask the ministry, whoever who is in leading the department, to introduce the delegation who's here, who's not here. Apologies from the department. I declare this meeting open.
Morning, Chair. Morning. I'm here, the Deputy Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, but the acting DG is leading the delegation together with the leadership of the Robben Island Museum, Chair. But as the ministry, we are here. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to the acting DG. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. I didn't check who's here because I was supposed to greet you specifically as the head of the ministry. But fortunately, this agenda who's flighted here made I can check who's here, who's not here. Okay, acting DG.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning to you. Good morning to the Minister. Good morning to the Deputy Minister and the members of the portfolio, the leadership at the Robben Island, and my colleagues. We are, as the Deputy Minister here, on the side of administration, I am leading the team. And I believe we have both our principals attending the meeting. On the side of the officials, it would then be myself, the DDGs in the person of DDG Ndima and DDG Chipatamba. And then we have the director who's responsible for entities, which is Mr. Tanyane. We have also Ms. Pam Ben Mazwai, Director for Infrastructure, who we've also asked to be present due to the interfaces that happen with the work that she's doing. We are supported by staff from ministry. I've noticed that present in the meeting is Mr. Mbotwe, dealing with parliamentary issues from the Office of the Minister, Mr. Watani, dealing with the same issues from the Office of the Deputy Minister. Those are the officials that I currently can pick up, Chairperson, that are present in the meeting. I also want to indicate that as a department, we have received indication that there will be 7 members representing the board of RIM. I'm sure given an opportunity, they will then be, through the chairperson, able to introduce themselves. And on the side of management, we have been advised that there will be 4 executive management representatives in the meeting. So, Chairperson, at this point in time, I do not have apologies from the side of the department, but perhaps through the chairperson, they will then indicate whether there are any apologies on the side of Robben Island Museum. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Acting DG. Thank you, DM. Can I give it to the leader of the museum? We also did get this delegation. I'm confirming that they forwarded who's coming, who's not coming. Let me welcome the leader who's leading the Robben Island Museum. Can we do as the department just introduced who is here, who's not here, the apologies, and taking from there. Anyone from Robben Island Museum who's leading?
Thank you.
I don't know whether you're alert. Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable members, the executive leadership, especially the Deputy Minister and our DSAC oversight team. We have, as indicated, and I'll call them to introduce themselves. We have Dr. Bongani Ngulunga. He can unmute and introduce himself.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair, Minister, Deputy Minister, and other members of the Portfolio Committee. My name is Bongani Ngulunga. I'm the member of the Robben Island Museum Council. I also chair the Governance, HR, and Ethics Committee of Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ngulunga. Then it's Councillor Lita Jolobe, an ex-political prisoner.
Good morning, honorable members, and my name and the Deputy Minister, together with the DSAC representatives. My name is Lita Jolobe. I'm a member of the Robben Island Museum Council, and I head the stakeholder relations committee within the council. Thank you.
It's then Councillor Enver Daniels.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister. Good morning, Deputy Minister. Morning, honourable members. My name is Enver Daniels. I'm a member of the Robben Island Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Juanita Sami. If you can unmute your microphone.
Sorry. Morning, everyone. My name is Juanita Sami. I'm a member of the Robben Island Museum Council, and I chair the Infrastructure and Facilities Management Committee. Thank you.
Then we have another ex-political prisoner, Councillor Tembinkosi Ngobo. Unmute.
Good morning, honorable members, colleagues, and officials and executive. As the chairperson has stated, I'm Tembinkosi Ngobo. I'm also a member of the Robben Island Council. I serve on several committees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will hand over to the CEO shortly, who will also introduce the other key executives present. I want to say at the outset that Minister Kodwa has visited Robben Island, and together with the Honorable Deputy Minister have embarked on a cooperative plan to ensure that every government department, national government department that's associated with Robben Island, particularly the 32 pieces of legislation that impact Robben Island, will be more coordinated. And to that end, that visit and following their visit to Robben Island early this month, they have undertaken an interministerial committee that comprises the various deputy ministers of the key ministries such as the Ministry of Public Works and Infrastructure, the National Department of Tourism, the Department of Forestries and Environment, and a few others that are directly implicated in legislation. Now, it is common cause that
Chairperson,
Robben Island.
I'm sorry, Chairperson. We're not yet there. We'll give you what we are doing.
Sure.
Let's
Good.
finish the introductions.
Okay.
And then what we are doing, we'll give you a chance to do that. Thank you.
Then may I call on the CEO, Ms. Abigail Tulare, to introduce herself.
Thank you, Chair.
Feedback, somebody else has a device that's on. Okay.
You must switch off the, she must switch off the video. Maybe it's because of that. And then Ms. Tulare.
You are mute, Ms. Tulare.
Apologies for that. We are in the boardroom sharing the equipment. Can you hear me, Honorable Chairperson?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Honorable Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee for Sport, Arts and Culture, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, the Robben Island Chairperson and Council members who are within our midst, the acting DG and DPGs, including the colleagues from DSEC, and as well as Robben Island. A very good morning. My name is Abigail Tulare, the Chief Executive Officer of Robben Island Museum. Honorable Chairperson, with me, I have the executives who will introduce themselves. I'll start with the Chief Infrastructure Officer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, honorable members and colleagues and council chairperson and councillors and exec. My name is Mapotla Mahwadi, the Chief Infrastructure Officer of Robben Island Museum. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one. Let's try not to take our time. Let's be just faster.
Good morning, honorable members. My name is Chimangadzo Lemaheni. I am the Chief Heritage Officer for Robben Island Museum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, CFO.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Zoli Sifukula. I'm the head of the Office of the CEO.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. The name is Karabo Ramela. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Robben Island Museum. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Minister, Deputy Ministers, Minister.
Just a moment, Chairperson. Sure. Can I direct the meeting? Now, honorable members, we have this. Unless Chairperson want to give us the apologies, that's the only thing that I can give you to do.
Yes. The other members who are not present could not make it because of their other commitments that they could not get out of, and Council has noted their apologies, and we tender that to the Portfolio Committee. But as we stand, we have a fully quorate Council present. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable members, Minister is with us, Deputy Minister is with us, the leadership of the department is with us, and the leadership of Robben Island Museum. Okay, now I give members a chance to adopt the agenda of today. Maybe before that, Jabu, do we have any other apologies which are directed to you?
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, members. Good morning, everyone. No, we do not have any apologies, Chairperson, on our side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jabu. Honorable Adams.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Deputy Minister. Good morning, Minister. And good morning, colleagues and all on the platform, and also to the Chairperson of the board. Good morning. Chairperson, I move for the adoption of the agenda. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Adams. Honorable Veronica.
Thank you, Chair. Morning to all that I missed previously. I second the proposal.
Thank you. I've seen other members, maybe you were going to do that. Honorable Malomane, Honorable Joseph.
I'm covered, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Dennis.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning all. Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to raise a point before the meeting. Some of the I think the board members have and I'm just raising this point for minute taking, Chairperson. Some of the members have introduced themselves as members of the board, and some have introduced themselves as member of the council. Now, when I read through the presentation, it appears there's two structures. So I just want to make sure that the people recording the minutes today make sure that the people that introduce themselves are either part of both bodies, or part of the museum, or part of the council. I just wanted not clarity, but I just wanted to raise that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dennis. The office, your secretariat, has got all their names accordingly on what you are saying. They forwarded in the secretariat's office who is he or she, the position, likewise. Thank you, honorable members. The agenda has been adopted, and now can I give it because now the minister is in the house, can I give it to the ministry that if is going to be acting DG who's going to give us the overview of the department. I'm giving to the leadership of the department who must do that job.
Thanks, Chair. The acting DG will do that overview. The minister is struggling, is in and out of the meeting. So yes, but he, as soon as he comes in, if he wants to do something, he will do so. But for now, Chair, let's allow the acting DG to do the overview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, DM. Acting DG, Dr. Kumalo.
I'm trying to manage time.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
Once a chairperson, always a chairperson, DM. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. If you please move to the next slide. While I do that, I just need to indicate, Chairperson, that Lodwick Ralebipi is in the meeting. He is the one who's screening for us. I forgot to indicate he was present. He's the acting director in the office of the DG. Our presentation, Chair, follows the standard format that we normally use when presenting this overview to the portfolio committee, which covers the items as indicated in the slide that is currently being screened. So allow me not then to read each of these items, as these will be covered in each and every slide. If we can then move to that next slide, Lodwick. Here, Chair, we are outlining what is the mandate of the Robben Island Museum. its responsibilities in terms of the managing, the maintaining, the developing, and also the marketing of Robben Island as a national heritage and world heritage site. You will hear in the presentation, Chairperson, because they will then be covering each and every one of these responsibility areas. Allow me to also indicate that this is in terms of existing pieces of legislation as depicted in the slide. The museum itself was established by the Department of the then Arts and Culture in 1997, and it is governed by a council that is appointed by the Minister of the Department of Arts and Culture. Hence, perhaps you heard the use of the word board member and the use of the word council member interchangeably, because that's the terminology that is also used in the official documents, Chair. It was then declared a marine protected area in 2019, and this was in terms of the National Environmental Management Protected Areas Act. Let's go to the next slide. We then, Chairperson, highlight the non-financial performance of the entity over the last 3 audited years. If we focus on the last audited year, 21-22, the entity achieved 87% out of its performance indicators contained in their APP. And if we then tally the numbers up, it will mean that 13% out of the performance indicators were not achieved. And you will note over the years, without me reading the numbers, Chair. If we then go to the next slide that outlines the financial allocation as per the baseline allocation coming from the department, but also the infrastructure grant that also comes from the department that is transferred. What we are indicating here is the 3-year period going into the current financial year, 23-24. So over the years, they would be the numbers as indicated. If you look at the baseline allocation together with the infrastructure grant, there are individual figures, but the totals are at the bottom from 21-22, 96 million going on to 99.6 million in the current financial year, which is made up of 92.4 baseline allocation and 7.2, which is the infrastructure grant. Hence, we said also present in the meeting is the director responsible for infrastructure that will then manage that infrastructure grant. We indicate the audit outcomes, Chair, over the last audited financial years, as we were doing with the financial non-financial performance. And this is what is depicted. Going into 21-22, the entity achieved an unqualified audit opinion with findings. In 2020-21, there were no findings, hence the audit outcome there was clean, unqualified and clean with no findings. 29 qualified. So we do see the progressive performance, which I'm sure the CEO, once she presents, will then be able to talk to that. If we then move on, we indicate the names of the board members led by Professor Seth Cooper, who is present in the meeting. And as he indicated, he's brought along the members of the board, above half of the members, as the numbers can speak for themselves in the slide that we indicate. We also have done the split representing the gender split in as far as this board is concerned, and also the racial split. If we can move on to the next slide. In terms of oversight activities, the entity management unit led by Mr. Sanyane would always monitor the attendance of meetings, the frequency at which members attend, and also the numbers of those council committee meetings, as all board members will then set up committee meetings so that they can play their oversight responsibilities. The attendance rate of council meetings stood at 86% in the last audited financial year 21-22. And also you will note in particular the number of audit committee meetings that were held over the years, including the number of meetings that are held by management and those that are held for staff. If we then move on, Ludwig, we speak to governance engagements. The department, as has been reported in the past, has set up forums through which it is able to have the entities coming together. In as far as the Robben Island Museum is concerned, they serve in those two forums, which is the Heritage Sector Forum, as convened by the department, together with the CEOs Forum. This allows all the CEOs to be able to interact, share best practices, and be able to learn from each other. If we move on, those are the dates that are indicated as to when those meetings held. The total staff complement is reported to be at 293 by our entity management unit, and it then indicates the split in terms of gender and females and males, but also racial split as indicated on the slide as reflected. If we then move on, we will also give indication of the composition of the executive management that is led by the CEO, Ms. Abigail Tulache. We will note, Chairperson, that there is also representation in terms of gender and race, and also it gives indication of the contract periods each one of those executive managers is currently serving. That's the acting chief financial officer, chief infrastructure officer, and the chief heritage officer, amongst other management members. Chairperson, if we at this stage would like to then stop here, as we indicated, we are using our standard format, and I think I've saved on your time, Chairperson, that you had allocated to us for this presentation. I would want to hand back to you. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Acting DG. Yes, we did save it. Let me take this opportunity now to give the Chairperson of the Museum, Robben Island Museum, to you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I had to change my clothes here in Singapore, where I'm calling you from, because the heat is worse than the worst heat in the north of Limpopo. So, but allow me to also acknowledge yourself, and the other honorable members, the honorable minister, the honorable deputy minister, and the key officials from the Department of Sport, Art and Culture, led by the ADG. Robben Island, honorable members, presents a history that predates the current era. We know that the Phoenicians set foot on Robben Island, and long before the 15th century, Portuguese rounding the Cape, there was a Chinese armada. We also would like to note that if the Portuguese had succeeded in colonizing the Fair Cape, we would next year be celebrating a 50th anniversary of independence, but we had the 17th century advent of Dutch settlerdom and the VOC, or the Dutch East India Company's involvement. The history is one that is central to the very heart and soul of South Africa, not only spanning this era, but the pre-centuries and this long history. Notes that Robben Island served as a place of banishment, right from Auchemau, the Huringwa, who was banished there by Jan van Riebeck, and over the centuries, indigenous people who resisted the dispossession of their land and the dissidents of the Dutch settlerdom in the Batavian Republic, Indonesia, and also what is now Malaysia, challenging political oppression and colonialism. So this very checkered, very rich, and very important history is contained in this national, continental, and global site that has been declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. Our founding president, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, decided to establish Robben Island Museum. For quickness sake, I'll refer to it as RIM, and envisaged that this museum would represent the history of the island in its diversity and fullness, so that the latter day history that Robben Island is most famous for, or notorious, depending on how you view it, the liberation history, is what makes Robben Island stand out in our heritage sites throughout the country, the continent, and worldwide. To that end, our council, after assuming office in July, began an inclusive review process from October, including the various national departments that either have direct legislative oversight or who should be involved in our national and iconic site. We've engaged with other key stakeholders in the heritage space, including higher education institutions, other sister museums and entities, the Association of Ex-Political Prisoners, and we continue to engage with other national departments. And we want to acknowledge that all spheres of government have displayed an interest in Robben Island, including the Western Cape, where one oversight committee was oversubscribed with other members joining that committee. And of course, we have a relationship with the city of Cape Town. We have decided that every national holiday and every other continental, and we're coming to Africa Day next week, and global days of specific import for not only RIM, but all of South Africa, will be celebrated or commemorated. And to that end, we have engaged with the various groups that represent those leaders who fought against colonialism, Makanda, Makoma, Langali Belele, and various others. And we have also engaged with the National House of Traditional Leaders and its leadership. And we believe that Robben Island is on a trajectory to upward mobility in terms of numbers. We believe it is on a trajectory to keep its space with museums, not only on the continent, but globally. And that the message of Robben Island, that quest for reconciliation and liberation, will be emphasized over 10 days from the 2nd of February 1990, when the liberation movements were unbanned, until the 11th of February 1990, when President Mandela was released. So next year, that weekend, the second weekend of February, will stand out as a segue to the 30th anniversary of democracy in our country. If it weren't for the contributions made by the liberation movement and various persons who opposed the system of racism and other exclusions in our country, we would not be where we are during this nascent democratic period. So we not only involve ourselves with ex-political prisoners from Robben Island, but we have made a concerted effort to include others who were jailed in various other prisons throughout the length and breadth of this land, and in particular, the women's prisons, those who served sentences, and some are within our national cabinet, from Kroonstad to the Johannesburg fort. We want to assure the Portfolio Committee that over the last few years, our ticket prices have not increased. We want to note that South Africans are now the main visitors to Robben Island, and the price that foreigners pay subsidize the tickets for nationals pay, or what nationals pay. We have also taken the decision that 15-year-olds will be allowed onto Robben Island with the appropriate parental presence and liability signed off, so that our children not only of our country, but throughout the world, can understand the basis of a singular part of our history that was directly associated with bringing democracy to our country. And we want to also assure members that all suggestions from various quarters of government at national, provincial, and local government level will be considered. And to that end, our chair of the Stakeholders Committee, Lita Jolobe, will be extending invitations to specific stakeholders that have a role in what Robben Island constitutes, its current, and locating it into the future, where our country is significantly comprised young people. At least 60% of our country comprises people younger than 30 years of age. And we have various programs which we won't talk to here, but are still in the throes of conclusion and will be unveiled over the next year and a half, so that Robben Island restores its centrality, not only in our country's history, but in global history. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm leaving to you to direct who's supposed to do what, Chairperson.
Thank you. Our CEO, Ms. Abigail Tulare, will lead us on the achievements over the past year. As directed by the Portfolio Committee, we will cover each of those, including our financial performance. So I hand over to Ms. Tulare. If you can unmute your microphone, please.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of Council, and also to the Chairperson of the committee. As per the brief, we were asked to deal with or present the annual performance plan for the 2023 and 24 financial year, as well as outline some of the implications of being declared a World Heritage Site. And as part of the introduction by the acting DG, that was touched in detail, but will then conclude by touching on the implications at the end of the presentation. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the presentation was shared with the committee members, and hope the committee had an opportunity to go through the presentation. It is a long presentation, but we didn't want to miss the opportunity to orientate the committee in terms of specifically the changing mandate of Robben Island as well as the programs that we have introduced. Amongst others is the environmental management program. And also this is driven by the different functions within the museum. So it was important to just give an overview of what these programs are all about. And if Honorable Chair, if I'm allowed, I would just like to focus our engagements, specifically given the size of the presentation, to the key highlights, in terms of the progress that we have seen following the last engagement with this committee, which was last year on the 25th of January. And we also taken into consideration some of the issues that the committee raised in terms of our presentation, and also directing the committee to the key focus areas of our annual performance plan, including our financial performance, as the chair has indicated. So, Honorable Chairperson, this is going to be a joint presentation where the acting CFO will also come in terms of the presentation. Perhaps it is important to quickly highlight the fact that our mandate has been evolving since we opened our doors, and we are now also a marine protected site, with council being recently appointed as a management authority, and that comes with a responsibility. And it is important to indicate to the committee and honorable members that RIM was able to carry all its responsibilities throughout the years, in line with the primary mandate, including the additional mandates. But this was only carried through the operational grant that we are receiving from the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture under the Cultural Institutions Act, as it directs how funds should be given. And I know, okay, and also in line with the 3 programs that we have highlighted in the presentation. And perhaps also it's important to indicate that the RIM has therefore been responsible in supporting the mandate of the other policy departments. And also in the presentation, as a result, we have outlined some of the institutional policies and plans that guide the work that we do, which I will touch high level as I continue in my summary. Given this additional mandate under the Cultural Institutions Act, I just want to highlight to the committee that there were new functions and roles that were introduced. Amongst others, those dealt with operations, governance, and also the additional or the current programs that we are running, which is the environmental programs and infrastructure programs. So as a result, all of this work has been subsidized with the same transfer of payments or grant allocation. And also, Honorable Chairperson and members, RIM managed to successfully implement its recovery plan, which was instituted in the 4th quarter of the 2021-2022 financial year, which was a time when the current executives were recruited. As you might have seen, most of our contracts or all of our contracts are expiring in 2026, and all of us started in 2021.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes, Honorable Mhlomo.
I'd like to apologize if I did not hear that, but we can have a presentation on the desktop, please.
Okay.
Yes, I was waiting from you, honorable members. Once you have said, he said he's summarizing, but I would love that you must talk to the slide and then you summarize a slide and in order that we must understand where you are, what are you talking about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I was still on slide 6, just talking to the institutional policies and plans that are supporting the current 2023-24 APP. And the emphasis was to say that our work flowing from the different policy mandates has informed some of our plans, amongst others, involves the concession and contingency policy, amongst the other policies that guide the work that we do. And also important is to indicate that we are also required as part and parcel of being a World Heritage Site to prepare an integrated conservation management plan. So this is just to show the committee that over and above us being a cultural institution, we are also responsible for these other areas. And if we can move, as part of the highlights, I'm trying to focus specifically on what we have been focusing on as part of the strategic objective under slide 11, where over and above the impact of the tourism sector, where we saw a reduction in the numbers and also the revenue. Management was then tasked to come up with what we call a recovery plan. And based on that, yes, you can post it. Based on that recovery plan, key was that in the fourth quarter of 21-22, given the fact that our situation was dire because we were starting on a low base when we joined the institution, we came up with a recovery plan where there was buy-in from all the stakeholders, including our staff, and also through their commitment, we managed to stabilize Robben Island Museum operation and also generated the revenue in order to augment some of our costs. And this project was driven primarily because at the time, we're going through challenges in terms of the going concern and as a result of the aftermath of the pandemic. And I think it's important, Honorable Chairperson and members, to indicate that in this recovery project, in stabilizing RIM's operations, RIM at the time was facing job losses and there was a proposed Section 189 process. But we are happy to report that there has been a notable progress in the various departments, which also was a result of driving the recruitment of the critical positions. But lastly, before I go back to the focus areas in terms of the slide that's in front of us, Honorable Chairperson and members, our current APP, we are happy to indicate that it reflects the total or the plans as envisaged, because in the 21-22 as well as 22-23, we had to reduce some of the targets because of the impact in the revenue, where we saw a loss of 95% at the time. And as we know, we cannot budget on a deficit. Budgeting on a deficit, we have to request approval from the National Treasury. So as a result, we are happy to say the current 23-24 APP fully reflects rather what is to be achieved given the improvements that we've seen, and also the fact that Robben Island has been on a positive trajectory, and that is reflected in the 2022-23 financial year results. I wouldn't want to miss this opportunity also to say that, as the chair has indicated, Council went through a strategic review session, which also included the review of the strategies, as you might see in slide. The strategic risks, which obviously are linked to the strategic focus areas in terms of what would prevent us to really achieve these objectives. On this slide, what I want to highlight is the risk that is facing up in successfully implementing what we ought to implement. Chief among those is the fact that we are seeing a reduction in the number of the apolitical prisoners, as we know that they form part and parcel of our interpretation on at the maximum security prison. But through the proposed mitigation strategies, we will be engaging with the necessary associations. But also on this side, what I want to highlight also is the fact that WIM has been facing a lot of challenges in attracting the right skills, specifically given its unique nature, focusing on the ferry operation, because we are still not to be offering competitive market-related salaries, and as a result, we see a lot of young recruits after having their experience, they leave the organization. So these are some of the things, and basically what we are saying, we are competing with the sector, with the marine sector, we are competing with the Transnet of this world, and until such time that we are aligned through the intervention of the department by calling all the policy departments to come around the table to really support our cause and also to make sure that we achieve what we said to achieve. But I think linked to that, I will also talk to some of the strategic projects that we have been running as part of contributing towards the marine sector. We'll go back to that slide, that talks to the 8 key focus areas as identified by Global. I'm mindful of the time, Honorable Chairperson, but I'll try my level best to cover most of the things that I need to cover. I think on this slide, what we're trying to indicate is that Council has given this current executive, what we would call the marching orders, and part of that includes increasing or growing the RIM customer and visitor numbers with a special focus in the current financial year on children under 15 years of age. But also it's important to report that in its positive trajectory and also through the efforts of the marketing and promoting of the island, we managed to increase our numbers. In the financial year 2021-22, we only saw a total of 82,827 visitors. But we are happy to report that at the end of the 22-23 financial year, as of March, we saw a whopping 223,818 visitors. So which shows that our recovery plan and project and commitment of the executive together with RIM staff, we really managed to get the numbers. And as the chair has indicated, the chair of council, we are seeing South Africans interacting with our site, and we've seen an increase in terms of a percentage of 21%. If you go to that slide or refer to the slide that goes to the breakdown in terms of the visitor number. So I thought through this initiative in the 2023-4 financial year, it's important to highlight it. Let's quickly go through that one, just to reflect on this notable progress. And we couldn't have done it without the South Africans that are coming and engaging and interacting on the site. It's the 21% on top there. If you disaggregate the numbers, but the CFO will talk to them. If you disaggregate the numbers, you'll see that in terms of source countries, South Africa continue to be the leading visitors in terms of local tourism. Then quickly move and orientate you towards the slide that talks to the concession tickets, because I think this is also another notable achievement and commitment given the baseline that was dwindling, which we have since through the recovery plan have tried to really resuscitate, and as a result, as I've indicated, the section 189 at the time had to be halted given these improvements. So there's a slide that shows the concession ticket. Yes, members, I just want to draw your attention in terms of the fact that key to our responsibility and also the key focus areas by council in increasing access. It's important to indicate that in the 22-23 financial year, we've seen a total of 8,542 visitors in specifically designated groups, ranging from educational groups, cultural groups, and also social stakeholder groups, coming and interacting with the island, giving its significance and the history, and sharing, and also contributing towards nation building and social cohesion. So these groups, this trajectory will continue in the current financial year, and we are hoping that we will issue concession tickets that are above that number that we are seeing in terms of our plans in the current financial year. I would like to move also to indicate that whilst on this slide, that RIM also continued to target the public through the public heritage programs, targeting the different schools across the 9 provinces, where in the current financial year, in the slides that talk to public heritage and education, we are targeting almost 200 schools, or rather 20 schools per province in the current financial year. I just wanted to highlight that to the committee. And also, given the commitment in terms of Robben Island's executive and council to ensure good financial governance, we have introduced the annual operational planning, and which is also supported by activity-based costing. And if you can see, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members, in this presentation today, we are able to quantify the unfunded mandate, and this wouldn't have been possible without some of the financial governance enhancements that we have introduced. Chief amongst those is the activity-based costing that shows us the true cost, and also ensuring that we are able to deliver what we hope to deliver. I'm almost there, Chairperson. In terms of also the infrastructure projects, yes, this is the slide that shows the quantification in terms of exactly how much is it that is costing us to deliver on all these additional mandates, and we have proudly able to carry them through the current baseline that we are receiving from the DSEC grant, including also our tourism operations through the ferries that are going to the island, and also the fact that given the engagements that we have started, we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel, ensuring that Robben Island is fully supported in all these additional mandates. I think the one other part that I just want to quickly touch on relates to some of the infrastructure initiatives, and also through the Heritage Department as well, as part of those 8 strategic focus areas identified by Council. So I just want to spend time and talk to the adaptive reuse program. What this program means, and if you members have seen, we went at length to show the members that in terms of the 618 hectares land that is covering the island, where we have 479 buildings. And there's a slide that talks to, yes, this slide, that talks to the land use. This is a land use map, and we thought it's important as Robben Island to indicate that if you look at this land use map, where there are pockets of the white markings, those are the buildings that are not occupied. So as a result, through this adaptive reuse program, what we are proposing, and through the draft business model that we undergone last year, and we will be finalizing in the current financial year, our aim is to maximize the current infrastructure in terms of the 479 buildings. But I think what is important is to indicate to the committee and honorable members that this is a phased approach. And as you can see, we completed the first phase, which is informed by one of our planning instruments, which is the User Asset Management Plan, as required by the YAMA Act, which is administered under the DPWI, or the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. So in the 2023-24, we will be focusing in terms of phase 2 of these projects. So the adaptive reuse project also aims to introduce, because we've seen that there has been opportunity in terms of not using our assets that are on the island and facilities. And what we are trying to introduce now through our marketing strategy that we are finalizing in the current financial year, which will also talk to the pricing strategy and model, looking at an option of cross-subsidization and also dynamic pricing. That will then introduce conferencing facilities, accommodation, amongst others, and also what we call supporting activities, because the aim is to lock the visitors when they come to the island by offering alternative offerings that are in line with what the site stands for, in line with the policies that are guiding the work that we do. And amongst others, we have what we call the carrying capacity study. What the carrying capacity study is saying in terms of the policies and plans that we've shared with the committee, honorable members, it sort of gives us a ceiling in terms of how many visitors are allowed on the island. And per year, that is per year, maybe let me emphasize that, per year. So at any given point in time, as much as we are extending our offers through the adaptive reuse program, what we're going to be mindful of, another slide is a slide that talks to policies and institutional policies and plans. We are required to adhere to some of those policies. So we can't do anything outside of those policies. So it's something that we just wanted to assure honorable members that as a World Heritage site, there are things that you are supposed to do or you can do, and there are things that you cannot do. And as a result, in order to retain our status in terms of the World Heritage Convention, we can't do anything outside of what this site stands for. Here also under some of the projects, and also this then links to the heritage programs, is the Jetty One, which is another project that will introduce digital exhibitions. Honorable members, what this project is saying or envisages is to attract the youth in terms of really moving away from the traditional exhibition, but rather playing with augmented reality to attract the different market segments that will be confirmed by the market analysis that we are currently undertaking, including the marketing strategy that we'll be finalizing, which will ultimately inform the pricing strategy and model of Robben Island Museum. So I thought it's also important to highlight to the committee that in the 22-23 23-24 financial year, this will be the focus. And also maybe to add, this product also aims to look at the contribution of women and lawyers and families, brothers, sisters that supported the liberation struggle. And it would be amiss of us not to share those experiences. And also what we are looking at with this Jetty One project is that it's strategically located on the waterfront where there's a lot of fish. And we are seeing this as an opportunity to deal with the no-boat days, as we know that weather is a huge dependency in carrying our visitors from and towards the island through the Nelson Mandela Gateway. I think the second last part, Honorable Chairperson, that I just want to highlight is the fact that given the strategic focus areas and the mandate that has been changing, it is important to have a fit for purpose structure, which then means that as we will be undergoing an organizational review, which will include a skills audit, and of course, key to the process will be the thorough consultation with all the relevant stakeholders, including organized labor. And as a result, we have identified amongst the critical positions that we spoke about, given the changing mandate, is the organizational design and development and transformation specialists that will drive both the business model project
What happened? Honorable members, is it myself who doesn't have made
Chairperson, I'm also cut off. Dennis, I'm also cut off.
Chairperson. We also are almost experiencing the same. I'm just reaching out to the CEO and team to just check.
Yes.
Perhaps it's load shedding that started at 10.
Yeah. To me, load shedding was supposed to start at 8. We're just lucky
Where's the
that
backup?
it's not yet. Go on. Let me check now.
The past few days, I think the load shedding has been targeting the main only me that has
even
been
myself, Honorable Minister, what is going on now, Chairperson of RIM?
It seems that there is a load shedding problem. So
Okay.
we will
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
the
in the
CFO.
island. You can imagine they're in the island, so when load shedding hits there, it's quite difficult.
Yes, but we'll ask the CFO to conclude because he can deal with
Maybe the chair or the
finances.
deputy minister must just keep on trying them.
Yes.
He was left with, he was the one before the last. Can
through you, Chair?
Can I propose?
Through you, Chair. It's the CFO. Yeah, I can
Yes, CFO.
continue on to the finances aspect, and then the CEO and back on and conclude on that one slide.
I was going to propose that. Continue, CFO.
Thank you. These are the financial highlights from a performance point of view. They do reflect unaudited numbers. However, it's key to emphasize and to highlight to you, Honorable Chair and Honorable members and colleagues, that RIM is starting to make good strides, seeing that COVID-19 travel restrictions have been lifted, and RIM's Road to Recovery project in its initial stages is starting to reap some fruits. As you can see in the top line of saying operating income, we see a 55% increase. That is essentially the revenue generation capacity that is improved for RIM in relation to budget that was set at, with COVID travel restrictions in mind. Had been absorbed in arriving to the surplus figure. Just move to just here an indication. The income received in advance, it's always a good proxy for us because it gives us an indication of tickets that have been bought in advance and is essentially a small proxy around around interest that is coming. So this is showing to be quite significant in relation to the prior. The CEO has gone through this. Here I will essentially highlight the fact that, as I've highlighted, we have received remarkably good performance from a visitor numbers point of view, from a tour sales point of view. It's good feat performed by RIM staff. It shows good performance as a team. However, we are not yet out of the woods, as we had said that this is phase one. And in executing what the strategic goals are in terms of being an adaptive reuse, as highlighted by the CEO, a diversification of product offerings. She spoke to a Jetty One, and essentially all of these are inevitably should be anchored by a reviewing of the business model and the target operating model that we've referred to in line with these strategic goals and our objectives, as well as improving the filling of critical vacancies, essentially to also be market related and ensure that RIM can achieve its goals. I will pause there. I see the CEOs coming on.
Thank you, CFO.
Thank you. But yes, they're coming back on now.
Okay.
But as they're coming back on, Chair, perhaps let me steal this opportunity to just bring you back to what is meant when we talk about the unfunded mandate coming from essentially the marine protected area and RIM being declared as a management authority. So this is an exercise that we've done to understand what essentially is expected of us as an organization historically. So since 2019-20, that's the table with the green heading there. That shows you the expenditure that we have spent in relation to the blue bar, which is what we should be doing. So if the mandate was adequately funded, and bearing in mind that, you know, an environmental aspect is a critical part to RIM's status as a World Heritage Site. And that highlights a significant gap that we are fortunate to have been able to close it. However, it is not a sustainable way. CEO, I will hand over to you. Thank you.
Chair, Honorable Chairperson.
Yes.
Our sincere apologies. The building is without lights at the moment. There's a technical challenge, and our apologies because we had to be kicked out of the meeting, but I am reporting that we are back.
Yes, go on. You were about to finish when you said the one before the last slide. So do so. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and apologies once more. The other area that I thought, you know, we need to talk to in terms of the good work that has been undertaken through the various programs is the research unit. There's a slide that talks about the overview of the unit. And this unit is doing such an impeccable job in terms of making sure that through their research, they were able to finalize RIM's research agenda or the strategy in terms of how we need to go about our research. And in the next 5 years, that's where we will be running with this research agenda. And we held a workshop with all the critical stakeholders early this year, academic institutions, because they are key to the work that we do, the heritage practitioners, experts in the field, and also experts in the environmental and built environment, because that's also our responsibility as a World Heritage Site, including the EPPs that participated in this workshop. And what we would like to indicate is that the strategic research agenda, the main aim is to make sure that the research agenda touches on the different historical layers in terms of what this site stands for, in terms of pre-colonial, colonial era, and also during the liberation struggle times. And as a result, the aim of the agenda is to also enhance the capacity within Robben Island in terms of the research. And as a result, this unit managed through the project where they are locating or assisting in the location of some of the human remains that are buried in the different sites. And as a result, we managed to expatriate the human remains of the late Mr. Boy. And currently we are assisting the family of Mr. Mtati, the late Mr. Mtati, whose widow is now in her middle 90s. And we would really wish to give her, you know, the closure that she requires. And we're working closely with Sarah as our Heritage Resources Agency responsible for overseeing the work that the cultural institutions are doing. I'll move, Honorable Chairperson and members, and deal with one of also the key focus areas in terms of the 2023-24, which is our environmental management program, where RIM, through its baseline budget or operational budget and infrastructure budget, as it were, through the infrastructure program, we managed to install the CCTV cameras, which also included the 1 nautical mile. And the reason why I'm raising this is to also reflect on the acting CFO's presentation to say with the little that we have as the baseline, we are doing so much in ensuring that we are responsible in terms of our management or marine protected areas, and also the role of council as a management authority. And the aim of these CCTV cameras was to support the surveillance and the policing that we are doing with partners within the DFFE or the Department of Fisheries, Forestry and Environment, where we are dealing with the issue of abalone poaching. But since all these efforts and the technical task team that includes South African Police Service, that includes sand parks, we were able to reduce, the incidence of abalone poaching. And key in terms of our environmental management program is to contribute towards the integrated disaster risk management program, which also is responsible in the preservation and conservation of the site, given the risks in terms of exposure because of its remoteness from mainland. I think the other point, Honorable Chairperson and members, under the research agenda that I forgot to mention, and apologies, is that also, as the chair has indicated, that we have started engagements with the National House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders. We have not included that in our list of stakeholders, as you might have seen, because we tried to show the committee in terms of some of the partnerships that we are pursuing with the different categories. And one of them is the National House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders, but the engagements are still at the infancy stage. But what I would like to also report is that the aim with this engagement is to strengthen the traditional leadership layer, as the chair has indicated, and also making sure that we align with the traditional leaders' epochs. And as a result, currently we have an exhibition at the Outronk, which is part of our walking tour, which also had successfully completed its pilot phase. And in the 2023-24, through the marketing strategy and the pricing model that we are proposing, we will be continuing with the full launch of the walking tour. The last one, Honorable Chairperson and members, is to talk about, I did talk about the repatriation, the last slide talks to specifically some of the challenges that we've experienced, and through the commitment of our Chief Infrastructure Officer under the infrastructure program, had to embark on interventions to deal with power and water supply challenges. And as you might have seen, this falls under the CAPEX projects that DREAM had to undertake, and through also the support of DSAC through the DSAC infrastructure grant. This year, in the 23-24 financial year, we will be continuing with the projects, specifically the wastewater treatment plant and also the new desalination plant. And also critical is to say that as the executive and council, and through the engagements with all these policy departments that are key in the delivery of our mandate as we contribute towards their programs, is that we are considering an option of looking at RING being delegated the powers and duties as a user department in terms of clause 17 of the Government Immovable Asset Management Act of 2007. But we are saying this should come with funding. And given the experience and the fact that we are running current CAPEX projects, we are strongly of the view that CAPEX or infrastructure projects go hand in hand with the maintenance thereof. And we feel that we are capable as a team if we are given those powers. The last one on this slide, Honorable Chairperson, is that we are also collaborating through partnerships, and also these are continuing in the current financial year, where we will be driving the Green Agenda initiatives, which is an opportunity that we have missed as Robben Island Museum over the years, given the fact that we are running, amongst others, we have a PV plant, a photovoltaic plant, which gives us the energy on the island. And therefore, we are in the process of formalizing some of the partnerships, amongst others with Infrastructure South Africa, and also through the strategic integrated projects. We will be tapping into the infrastructure fund project pipeline. So we are saying we are not only relying on the fiscus, but we are also looking at other ways through partnerships and through these donor-funded projects, and also through these strategic projects. We are trying to tap onto the resources that are there in order to make RIM a place that everyone would like to continue to visit. And I know, Honorable Chairperson, I keep on saying the last slide. Actually, where I am, this is definitely the last slide. I just want to talk to the last issue in terms of the slide that talks to, I think it's under the ferries department. We just want to highlight the fact that we, as RIM, we have one of the very successful stories in terms of our flagship project, which is in partnership with Transport, Education and Training Authority, which is the cadet program. And this program contributes towards the Blue Economy project of government, and also Operation Pakisa, that is driven under the National Department of Transport. And as a result, we have 10 recruits, and 3 of those recruits have successfully completed the program. And there's a slide to that effect that talks to the breakdown, 5 females and 5 males. And would like to say that the remaining will be completing at the end of this year, and another intake will be in January 2024, which is next year, as part of the 2023-24 financial year. Honorable Chairperson and members, that's the end of the presentation on the annual performance plan, highlighting the key focus areas in terms of the achievements, which are informing the current 2023-24 APP. The only remaining slide, Honorable Chairperson, but I will be guided, is the implications in terms of us being a heritage site or a World Heritage Site. I'll pause here for that guidance. I can't seem to hear. I'm not sure if it's me on my side.
No, I'm saying that, I'm sorry about that. I'm saying do what you want to say, because surely it was not the last slide. You made a mistake of always saying last slide, last slide.
Yes, I know.
Do what you want to finalize. I'm so now afraid of saying, I want to present this because I've said it's a last slide. We're already getting
Apologies.
you're already getting to the minutes of the members. So
yes.
Please try.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and my sincere apologies. I should be mindful of time, and I am mindful of time. But my apologies in terms of also the power interruption that we experienced. So this slide talks to 5 key legislation that are a guiding framework, rather, or legislative framework in us being declared as a national and also a World Heritage Site. So the World Heritage Convention requires us to observe the implementation of this convention, which was a country agreement that was reached in 1972. But we are saying that given the status of being a World Heritage Site, if we don't adhere to some of the requirements, I spoke about the carrying capacity amongst others. I spoke to the fact that we are expected to preserve and conserve biodiversity in terms of fauna and flora, and also, given the significance of the site in terms of its outstanding universal value, if we don't adhere to all those prescripts, we run the risk of being delisted, as a World Heritage Site. And also, when they do that, they put you on sites that are in danger. So it's important to continue running and making sure that we preserve the status. And also, honorable members, in line with the National Heritage Act, we are required to deal with illicit trafficking of cultural property. And this act is further requires that SARA, which is the South African Heritage Resource Agency, to monitor compliance and conservation in terms of everything that we are doing, in line with the collections policy, which we covered under the institutional policies and plans. And also as a marine protected area, and we are a buffer that stretches to almost 500,000, I think 594 square kilometers. I'll confirm that. And as a result, there is a law enforcement that is required to protect that buffer zone. If that buffer zone, if it's not protected through law enforcement, we run the risk of also being exposed continuously to poachers and also threatening the safety of RIM staff that are also on the island. And as a result, this comes with a responsibility, and it relies so much on the collaboration and coordination of the role players that I spoke about, which is SANParks, DFFE, South African Police Service, amongst others. And lastly, the Cultural Institutions Act is is where we get our mandate as a national heritage site and a cultural institution. And currently, the baseline has not changed in line with the incremental changes and additions in terms of the mandate. And what we are saying is that through this collaboration that the department will be leading, we are hopeful that some of the discussions will be on the table in ensuring that we preserve and conserve and continue to promote Robben Island Museum as a World Heritage Site. Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members.
It was a long road to freedom, which is that long road to Robben Island. We didn't expect that it can be a short presentation. Thank you so much, both of you, CEO and CFO. I'm having two hands now because I was going to give the honorable members, but these two hands has been up. I didn't see. I was just open, and whilst you were talking, these two hands were already up. Honorable Mhlongo, Honorable Madlingozi, Honorable Zondi, Honorable Adams, Honorable Sibia, Honorable Dennis, Honorable Malomane, thanking you with the very informative presentation. Can now I give to these members, Honorable Mhlongo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister, Deputy Minister, all protocol observed. We welcome the presentation. Chairperson, firstly, I'd like to welcome the new CEO. To me, she's new because I've never interacted with her, and I see she's in Bogoto. And to even welcome the Chairperson, Dr. Cooper. And I believe, Dr. Cooper, you have this big challenge. I know you, I've worked with you, I know your leadership, but now we're going to do an oversight work to see that you move this entity from one level to another with your team and with the executive. Chair, I wanted to find out, I think this presentation is so quiet. There's plus minus 152 million rand, which has been set aside for this financial year for maintenance for the Robben Island. Why I'm saying it's quiet, we don't get actual details of the 152 million rand, which was set aside for maintenance. I think we need a breakdown. How much is it allocated for what? How much in detailed report for us to monitor the progress of maintenance in the museum. And one of the things, issue of plant desalination, what is the status at present? Because I see the presentation talks about money use and everything which we know that one of the issues where the biggest challenge was water. Yes, water now are moving, the status says completed, but we must see for ourselves that that problem has been solved. If honestly enough, they have water now, there's stability with problem of water. And the minister must account, because she said within 3 days, maybe when she visited the Robben Island, we said within 3 days, they are going to have water. I wonder what is the status quo now at present. I think the second issue is electricity. And today we just seen that they were in our meeting, there was disruption. Now, what is the status all in all offices, in all faces of the museum? What is the status of electricity? The generators, are they all working? Because last time we checked, were broken. If they're all working, how much now are we using for diesel at present? The less diesel we use, how much is it per month? And how are we reducing the cost of diesel? Because per annum was so high, and how are we reducing that cost of diesel? I wanted a clarity to, I think this is from the department. I usually ask them the percentage vis-a-vis the numbers. Council attend 86% per council meeting. What is that? How many council meeting for 86%? Chair, I have a problem. You know what, each and every time, and I'm not against the new leadership, but each and every chairperson comes in, new CEO comes in, there's a turnaround strategy, there's a review of strategy. In other words, now and then we'll get new strategies after strategies after strategies, which the previous leadership, there was a business model which they presented to us. Now we are going to get another one. I think there must be consistency on where are we going in 30 years' time or in 10 years' time. Then to change now and then, there's Vision 2020, Vision 2030. Why don't we have a 10-year plan, and then any leader that comes in, they must implement the plan going forward? Because I'm confused, because I can tell you there was money set aside to solve the issue of staff, which was 21.5 million rand, to reprioritize that. It must go for CapEx for us not to cut office staff. What is the status for that money? Was it used or not used? And how far? Because I see there are now job opportunities. In other words, it was kept. Now the job opportunities again coming in for us to advertise. I saw that there's an opportunity that will come for other position. Now I wanted to find out how far or what report do we have from the museum that advises the status of labor or human resource or human capital at that stage. Chair, for now, I'll take it from there, but my concern was that, but yes, we give the new leadership under leadership of Dr. Cooper, and we'll take it from there. And I believe I'll have a second bite after this. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Mhlongo. Honorable Mazungas.
Thank you, Chair. Molweni ngokulinganayo. Ngicela ukucima Chairperson. Chairperson, greetings to my colleagues, to you, Chairperson, the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, the visitors, the RIM crew, everyone. Chairperson, let me also acknowledge and accept the presentation, long as it is. My question, Chairperson, is are the buildings and infrastructure that has been dilapidated totally repaired in Robben Island? How bad was the destruction? And how much money did it cost to do the fixing? Chairperson, seeing and knowing our history in South Africa and how this Robben Island's notoriety is for, in terms of locking up our honorable kings and queens with common criminals, what steps is Robben Island taking to influence educational, structural information, as they have alluded, in advancement of our knowledge in our history? Of course, through advancing curriculum suggestions. Chairperson, what are their plans, if any, in place that Robben Island has to nurture a sense of national pride and rededication to the ideals of decolonization of our societies, knowing that kings who were against colonization were thrown in that Robben Island? Chairperson, my question again is, what are the reasons for unaudited financials to be presented here when there has been no auditing services to examine the validity of the statements? Chairperson, for the last time, I want to know how much is that big tombstone of Mr. Boy costing? Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mashingosi. The next honorable member is Honorable Zondi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good morning to you and honorable members, the ministry and the department, and also our visitors. Two questions, Chair, and two comments quickly. Chair, we welcome the presentation, long as it was, but it was summarized nicely, though I was kicked out on a number of times, Chair, but I think I get the gist of the presentation. Chair, firstly, on the APP and the Auditor General qualification, Chair, I just want to check that are the findings by Auditor General something to do with the capacity of the structure to manage expenditure of the entity? And what are these findings? Because and what is the timelines for the entity to deal with those findings? Few as may be, but what are the timelines to deal with them? Yeah, Chair, I just want to thank the department, Chair, firstly, to monitor and manage the turnaround strategy together with the entity. I remember in a very heated meeting between ourselves, the entity, and also the Sarah Batman entity. DG Kumalo said, we are closely monitoring the entity on the implementation of the strategic turnaround. Now, where are we? We remember that this entity, Chair, was on the verge of collapsing. At one stage, we thought many jobs are going to be lost. But the department, Honorable Minister, stood firm and said that is not going to happen. The way the ticket sales dropped during COVID, by the way. But I think the turnaround strategy is being closely monitored, as they are saying, because they are not saying it is going to be a very difficult to manage the situation moving forward. But Chair, on the turnaround strategy itself, we want to see fully operational entity that will continue to be the center of attraction in South Africa, as this is a national heritage site. The entity should increase the sales of tickets as previously before the COVID was, for its self-sustainable. If they continue to do that, Secondly, the infrastructure projects must be implemented without hassles. And the other matter, Chair, are the relations between the board and ex-political prisoners association. If the relations are improving, we'll be very glad. And there are no reports of that are extreme on their relations. And the last one, Chair, the entity should guarantee, should declare to us that the turnaround strategy will guarantee the stability of the entity, because that is where it will be fully operational, self-sustainable, and also be the center of attraction as it was previously. I think, Chair, ilogo engakubuza nengakucela baphawule kona. For now, ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Honorable Zondi. Honorable Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to all on the platform, and let me also join my colleagues by welcoming the presentation. Chairperson, during the 2019 and 20, the entity incurred irregular expenditure as per human processes were not followed during the purchase of a boat. In the prior year, consequence management has still not taken place against officials who had incurred irregular expenditure, which resulted in a materially non-compliance paragraph in the audit report. The entity should undertake disciplinary steps against responsible officials against to us required by the PFMA. And then, Chairperson, there was a presentation to us 20 April 2023. The PFMA 2022 and 23, slide 8, contractual challenges. Was the subcontractor fired from the site, and was there a new one appointed? The revised completion date 30 November 22 has now changed to September 23. What will happen if they cannot reply? What is the status quo currently? And the same slide 8, the Sarah Bartman Center of Remembrance, as indicated, MOU was only signed in 3rd October 2022, and no contractor has been appointed. What is the status quo currently? And in slide 79, Chairperson of the presentation, Chairperson, it will be interested to know the monetary value of the 8,542 concession and complimentary tickets. And then repairs and maintenance. Good to hear it started in 2021 and finished in May 2022, 100%. Who benefited from the project? The contractor was the contractor from outside the island, or was there residents from the island deployed on the project? And my last one, Chairperson, from the APP, 150 interviews of ex-political prisoners or their families conducted in the year. Is the project targeted specific provinces that they were still to conduct interviews in provinces like Limpopo, Northwest, and also in Namibia? That is my questions. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Adams. Honorable Sbi.
Thanks, Chairperson. Greetings to everyone. Thanks for the presentation. Chairperson, I don't know whether I heard them correctly. If they are saying the some of the ex-political prisoners were not yet interviewed. I don't know whether I heard them correctly. If I heard them correctly, what is the plan to visit those provinces who were not visited? The other one, what is the current status of the relationship between management and the ex-political prisoners association? I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Sibia. Honorable Dennis.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson, and I welcome the presentations and by Dr. Kumalo and also the board chairperson, Prof, and also the CEO, Mr. Lari. Chairperson, yeah, I want to just follow up on Member Rachel Adams' point about the procurement of the boats. Maybe we must just get that report. There was a dispute between the AG and RIM, and I would like to know if that matter was closed, whether it's still open or whether the matter was closed. Chairperson, I would also just on a previous member, Madlikosi, commented on the audit, so I wanted to know why there was a regress on the audit outcome with findings, and I also wanted clarity on the slide. It says the board expertise. So I just wanted to know if that board expertise also referred to the responsibilities of the board, because I was trying to find out who's responsible for maintenance, infrastructure, and the marketing from a board member perspective. Chairperson, the slide on the composition of staff, that is 293. I want to know what was the staff prior to COVID-19, and at the end it speaks about good relationships that exist between the labor unions or the divisions, but I wanted to know if there are any labor issues outstanding related to what happened at COVID-19, where the management wanted to go to CCMA. Chairperson, I also wanted to know I think if I'm speaking under correction, acting CFO, the process started to fill the vacancy, and just an update on that process, Chairperson. I want to comment, Chairperson, on the mission of RIM. I think it is probably the most strongest democratic statement in explaining triumph over the human spirit, over extreme adversity, and of course the injustice. And I think this mission should be used in a broader government context in all other departments, given the history of our country. My concern, Chairperson, is that there are too many senior management vacancies still, and it appears there's a big turnover, although I've noted a comment that they are busy with the process, but it's not good to have so many senior vacancies. On the facilities management and capital investment or improvement, Chairperson, I'm aware that the minister has indicated in the presentation, and the deputy paid a visit to the island, and obviously there was, I think the news said there was 150 million rand that was coming that way, and I wanted to know if they can give us a report on the breakdown of how that 150 million will be spent on the particularly on the infrastructure. I also wanted to know, Chairperson, whether at waterfront or where other points where people who do not come to the island, whether they could be TV screens or some information exhibitions, particularly at the waterfront where millions of people come, or other areas about, could just be displayed, and the whole marketing of the island can be extended also to other areas outside of the island. Chairperson, I was interested in the partnership. The slide speaks to partnership, so I wanted to know whether the David Stearman, other indigenous royal houses and traditional people are part of the partnerships? As I heard something about it, but I want to know what is the specific plan or who was identified to be part of that partnerships. I welcome the concession tickets for the educational groups. It's very good. And I wanted to know how in goal 3, I think it's slide 21, the information about RIM can be shared at other platforms to the broader public in South Africa, though I noted that it was said that there is a switch from visitors coming to the island from a national and regional point of view, which is very important. Chairperson, the archives, and I wanted to know just an update on after our committee visit to the island and to UWC. So I wanted just to know what improvement has been made to the archives facilities, and the joint task, I think it was established, if there are any reports that can be forwarded to this committee. Chairperson, a very important part of the infrastructure. I welcome all the proposals relating to the power, the water, the bulk services, and so on. All the infrastructure projects sounds good, but I wanted to know if the RIM would consider battery-operated vehicles or machineries that we can also maybe improve on the environment. And I also welcome the photos posted in the presentation about the upgrading of the houses. A question on the ferries, Chairperson. I just wanted to ask, who does the ferries belong to after the procurement? I found it very strange. There is improve on the efficiency and the hiring of boats. There's an amount, it speaks from 37.7 million down to 3.7 million on the expenditure. That is a huge amount. So I just wanted to know where RIM was able to find that expenditure change. It sounds good news, but I just wanted to know how they. And then towards the end of my question, Chairperson, on tourism, there was a media report on some months ago on, I think, a particular party that people wanted to have there. There was quite a big media hype on it. So I wanted to know, we have a mandate, or RIM has a mandate. So if that request for that party or silent party, whatever it was called, if it was within the mandate of RIM to approve that. And then I wanted to know on the memorial lectures, if I saw in the background slide, the first slide about the resistance movement. So I just wanted to ask also if in the memorial lectures, if the resistance movement, the Khoisan, the David Steemans, and will also get an opportunity. And I do appreciate the invitation to attend the leprosy lecture. It was good, and I must continue with that. But I just wanted a question on that. And then also want to say thank you to extending the public heritage education, the nation building to the youth and the youth camps, and the 2,000 learners and teachers from all provinces that will benefit out of that. Chairperson, on the administration, my last part in the finance, I just want to say that the 17 vacancies is crucial. And I wanted to know what was the attack that happened at UWC on the server. What was the impact on that attack? What was the cost? And Tom, is that meaning automated services? Or I just wanted clarity on what's going on there. And then a new position that was created by to help the office of the CEO about the legal and the governance and organizational design and transformation. Chairperson, I want to know who was doing that work before the time, and I also am aware that Robben Island Museum Management is using an outside company or agents to do their secretarial services. And why is it so? What is the cost? Is it a permanent arrangement? And why can't it be brought back to someone in the administration there? And then I welcome in closing the financial reports, the surplus of 22.5 million. I want to know what is that surplus going to be used for, and appreciate the 1.6 million increase in advance payment through the bookings that was raised. What will the increase be used for? And then in closing, I also wanted to ask then the recommendation that is in the slide, asking our committee for our support, which I think is a very good request. But the issue here, Chairperson, is the Department of Public Works is failing us. And I have in my speech the other day said Public Works must come and apologize. They must come and apologize to RIM and to this committee and to the country, because that is our flagship, one of the first 5 or 6 most important attractions for visitors and for our people. So yes, I think we must support the new management, the new appointments, Mr. Lari, the CEO, the new ideas. We want to support, but I want to also support Member Sepo, who said we can't every time have a new idea when it's a new management and new proposals and we're not carrying through. So we hope this time we will be able to carry through, and I'm looking forward to that the anniversary of the 30th Robben Island projects and all that goes with. And then last, I want to request that every single word that Professor Sats Cooper have said in his introduction must be recorded in this minutes, or if in a separate report also, his remarks, but also in the minutes. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Dennis. Honorable Maloman.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Greetings to the Minister, Deputy Minister, honorable members, the departmental staff, our own staff, and our guests. Chair, let me also join in welcoming the presentation that is bringing hope to our Robben Island Museum. As it is alluded under the improvement, that there is an increase in visitors. I really appreciate that there was no increase in ticket price. On the issue of deficit, there's no more a deficit now. It shows that there are more improvements that we'll see under this new leadership. Chair, my question, it will be based on the issue. The first one, it will be that on the site, I remember that there was an area where the public were not allowed to go or to enter there because there was a need of issues of maintenance. I just want to find out whether did they prioritize those areas where there was no access for public when it comes to the issue of maintenance. And also let me appreciate the Department of Public Works, our own department, which is DSEC, on their intervention when it comes, especially the department when it comes to the issue of water challenges, because the report states that the department has intervened for so that it could have water, because there were still those challenges of water and electricity, the broken generators. I believe that as the intervention is there from the department, I also like to request the department to consider inviting other departments that are also touched or connected to RIM, like tourism, so that maybe they can have interdepartmental, so that they can see what they can assist in RIM. I also want to ask RIM, what are the challenges or the pressure that is bringing with the issue of the unfunded mandate? The other thing is that there's the 4th integrated conservation management plan that will be implemented in the second half of this year. So this plan is a requirement by the legislation in government, World Heritage Site. Can we be forwarded the plan so that maybe we can read it and so that we can see what is it on the plan? The other thing that I've seen is that on the report, there is the issue of sustainability challenge posed on the future of the operational base location which is Nelson Mandela Gateway under a 40-year lease. So I just want to check on the issue of that. Can they be clarity? And then on the issue of job creations, they said it is 128 jobs that were created. I just wanted to find out where the temporary jobs, how many were permanent on the 128 jobs that were created. The other matter, it will be on the issue of filling of vacant posts, which is the 38%. And I've heard that the 17 which are critical position. I just want to have the timeline on when are they going to fill those positions, as they've alluded that the 17 are critical position. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Malomane. I'm suspecting the honorable members.
Chairperson?
Oh, okay, Honorable Van Dijk, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. Honorable Van Dijk.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you also for the presentation. I only have 3 questions. I also want to join the concerns of my colleagues on Robben Island being one of the 6 entities that has regressed in its audit opinions, and if you can explain why and how these challenges will be addressed. And then there was in the past a call on RIM to reduce the ticket sales so that the museum can be accessible to all South Africans. I know that you have not raised the pricing, but if you just can confirm again the pricing of the walking tours and how locals are accommodated. And then I just want to know if you think that the pricing is impacting on the ticket sales. And then also, Honorable Joseph has referred to the relocation of the Robben Island Museum archiving and collections projects at the University of Western Cape. I also want to know what the progress has been made. And then also, who are the stakeholders that the task team engage with? And if RIM can maybe just share with us how it has considered this archiving and collections, how this will be made more accessible to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Van Dijk. Honorable members, we can repeat ourselves, because as this committee, we did take an oversight to RIM area. That's why when I'm listening, members, they do emphasize in all what were raised. But what I can say that thank you for this presentation, long as it is, but the detail of it when you were reading it before it is tabled here, and the way it was summarized, I'm aware that as this committee, when we have done oversight, we're seeing gaps between our department and public works. For instance, we'll be getting that the department's location of the infrastructure, it was there and it was exhausted. And now I'm also worried whether, except the committee, that another department can monitor a 150 million breakdown of public works, as when we were visited there, we were getting to know that the public works didn't do well with their finances. So that's why we were having some dilapidated buildings, and maybe if we can get the report now, as you were saying that you are almost there, but want to get to know, because even your good selves, you were outlining the gaps between the 2 departments in looking after infrastructure. But to the ministry and to the members of the committee, we do appreciate that when RIM wanted to raise the ticket sales, this committee did come very strongly of trying that it must not happen, because which means the people who can visit that important area can be those who are coming overseas, the locals, the school kids. We argued that, and I've heard immediately that the chairperson and the rest of the presenters saying that till now they didn't increase them, what you call the ticket sales. But when time comes, it was really rocketing that time when you were saying, no, it's too much. But I'm suspecting when you look at any other factors, when we are increasing, you must try not to increase them unreasonable. I'm suspecting that by these questions, we are giving you leadership of RIM and of our department now time to give us some answers from or some way forward. I'm suspecting all of us were not happy with the number of vacancies. Where there are vacancies, and if they are not being filled, you know that, which means that department or that entity, the capacity won't be 100%. I thank you to you, Chairperson, with your team, and to you, Ministry, with your team. I thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll respond to the questions raised, and the CEO will give the detail on some of the questions asked. And if time precludes us going through some of the detail, we can respond in writing on those. Let me start off by saying part of the difficulty we have is actually a consequence of democracy. When apartheid ran Robben Island, it was run as a national high security key point. Resources were made available from government directly via the Ministry of Justice and Prisons to Robben Island. The Deputy Commissioner of Prisons was dedicated to Robben Island, and you'll appreciate that he ended up being the personal secretary of the last apartheid president, and ended up being the first ambassador to Tokyo. The consequences of democracy and the creation of different areas of responsibility by legislation has resulted in some of these problems. The primary ones have been highlighted, and these are the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and the Department of Forestry and Environment, DFFE, and Environment. The secondary, well, I would put tourism there as well, because it covers some of the marketing issues, because that wasn't there until the minister visited, the minister visiting, agreeing that this was a lag in the department's involvement with Robben Island. We welcome all the positive statements that have been made, and I want to just say the issue that Honorable Mhlongo raised about new people, new brooms, etc. The current council is not attempting to reinvent the wheel. As it says in the Holy Book, the specific Bible, there's nothing new under the sun. What we're doing is we are reviewing some of those areas that actually need rethinking in order to ensure that RIM delivers on all its areas of primary and secondary mandate. The big difficulty we have is that the Department of Public Works operates on a model that is unsustainable and does not lead to the necessary job creation and necessary local responsibility being taken, because they appoint service providers. There are a multitude of service providers that are appointed, and it's been pointed out that they in turn appoint subcontractors. So the previous minister was unhappy with that process and instructed that there should be a change, and instructed that there should be direct funding made available to those areas. So a lot of the areas of degradation in some of the sites or some of the specific buildings, the inability to deal with them directly because the service provider is answerable to his national entity that was successful in the bid, and the time taken creates massive problem. There are specifics that have been raised, which the CEO will deal with. But part of that problem is also the vacancies are not being filled, because we can't afford. We would be irresponsible as a council, and you will be the first to come down on us for advertising positions or for filling positions without the budget to do so. That is what we are reviewing right now. And we are very pleased that the minister and the deputy minister have engaged with their counterparts in these key departments, and the deputy minister for sport, art and culture is facilitating with her deputies in the various departments, e.g. DFFE, DPWI, and tourism in particular. So we are looking at ensuring that there is a plan that is going beyond our current mandate, but general enough that it doesn't tie up any new people coming on board later, but very specifically, all the issues that we have covered here and you have raised have to be the ones that are covered. So we have a massive problem with the kinds of old style like diesel, etc., and the CEO will respond to that shortly. We are approaching the various educational departments nationally on the stories from Robben Island and from other places that involved people being charged for political offenses rather than criminal offenses. The nurturing a sense of national pride and the fight against decolonization, as Honorable Madlingozi has raised, are very correct as part of what we want to do. The reason we are presenting unaudited financial statements here is that we're currently under audit, and that's why we have specified that area. We have a qualified audit, and many others have raised that for the last, unless my memory is incorrect, for the last couple of financial years, and that deals with specifically the commissioning of the Crotoa. That is going to see some closure hopefully soon, because we are in engagement with management and the AG's office, including our internal audit people, to ensure that that is put to bed. Indeed, we don't want to see this repeating itself in the audit going forward. So the strategy that the department, DSEC, our primary department, has adopted is to provide some funding for those lags that, for instance, emerge with DFFE and DPWI. The sale of tickets, we have retained at the current levels. There is a cost per ticket, per price, that is a little higher than the current pricing. It goes over 400 Rand, and we're still examining to ensure that if we were to run without any money coming from the fiscus, what would the real cost be? And that is currently at a high level of realization. So the turnaround that we are talking about is to look at complete sustainability, to reduce reliance on the fiscus, but also to carefully manage our income and create partnerships that don't end up privatizing a national asset, because that would be disaster for Robben Island indelibly. The disciplinary measures taken, it's of common cause that that stopped a while ago. However, we are continuing to look at the consequence management as it affects anybody that is responsible for that finding by the Auditor General. The partnerships, Honorable Adams, with various centers, you're mentioning the Sarah Bartman and other members mentioning David Steerman, Honorable Member Dennis. Those are part of what we're reaching out, the entities that we are reaching out to. There cannot be any entity that represents history that we won't reach out to and we won't collaborate with. We will not repeat what other dedicated institutions are doing, but the partnerships going forward, as has been evident over the last year at least, shows that there is full inclusivity in how we do what we do. The archives and the cyber attack, etc., will be spoken to by the CEO. We do have an MOU with the University of the Western Cape. The entire Maibuye archive is national property. It does belong to Robben Island, and we're looking at how do we utilize some of those archives in curating exhibitions in the waterfront. The honorable members talked about looking at the waterfront and doing things in the waterfront. So there will be curated exhibitions from time to time using those artifacts and making them available not only at the Nelson Mandela Gateway, but importantly Jetty 1, which is the original site, which were from where we were shackled, brought from different parts of the country and put on the different boats in the hold of those different boats and taken to Robben Island. So we're looking at some of those boats as well. They all belong to Robben Island, including the last one, the passenger carrier, the Crotoa. They all belong to government effectively. And we're looking to how we can repurpose some of those that are not in use and maybe as a site, a museum site that's in the waterfront. So the various product offerings are being looked at right now to make it easier for people to know about their history, our combined history, so that we can create the patriotism that is sadly missing, to create social cohesion, which is a mandate of DSAC specifically and Robben Island generally, to do these kinds of projects which will result in people understanding that our history is one, that maybe particular parts of history have been emphasized and history hasn't been on the curriculum. That debate has been settled by the Department of Basic Education agreeing to make history part of the syllabus. And we trust that the stories, the really captivating stories, stories of pain, stories of torture, stories of total alienation from ourselves and our history and our culture over the colonial period will be remediated in the fashion that we are looking at, of inclusively talking about different periods in our very long history and particular periods where it involves ex-political prisoners and how they overcame that adversity. Those stories, by the way, include the stories of the families, particularly the mothers, the sisters, the offspring, and the extended families that we have not heard from. Those stories are being collated. As we talk, we have plans for programs that will change the tour guiding to include offspring and those partners. So you will see female tour guides in the prison of somebody saying, my uncle was there, my great grandfather was there. We note also that of our presidents, 3 spent time on Robben Island. 1 had his father, Governor Mbeki, spend about 20 years on Robben Island. And the last current president, we have the period of the Viva Frelimo rallies and various other persons being incarcerated on Robben Island directly from that historic era. So all of these, including local memorializations, because it is unreasonable to expect that everything will be done within Robben Island. There needs to be a cooperative approach, and we've engaged with that, and we are happy that the ministry and the leadership of the ministry is looking at intersectoral engagement. We're looking at local memorializations. That means in particular towns where there have been fighters against colonialism and against the recent period of apartheid, that there will be those persons who are still around who will be involved in and with the local schools and within municipalities and so on. So we have a shared value proposition for different parts of our country, and we'll continue doing that. The new positions then that we have approved are to break the deadlock on reliance on external providers. Robben Island has unfortunately had a slew of external providers. That has been raised by the Department of Public Works and the Portfolio Committee specifically about job creation. Job creation is precluded when that happens. So we're looking at filling posts that we can afford, and we've taken all the recommendations that you have given, and we will prioritize these in terms of what we can afford. The specifics on water, electricity, the figures, etc., the CEO will deal with at now, Chairperson, and I ask her to deal with those. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson of Council and Honorable Chairperson as well as members. I will deal with the areas that the Chairperson has pointed that I deal with. The first one, I think it's from Honorable Mhlongo. They relating to the 152 million. We just want to record that the initial budget was 111, and we are comforted that it has been increased to 152 million. But the 152 million that has been cited is allocated across the 3 years. It's not an annual budget. But also to state that since DPWI is responsible for maintenance, they are directly responsible for that budget. Hence, our proposal in the presentation to be given or to be devolved the powers with the budget for us as RIM to directly manage the maintenance, as infrastructure and maintenance for us, or infrastructure projects and maintenance go hand in hand. And we were asked a breakdown. So the breakdown will be specifically coming from DPWI as the custodians of that budget. I'll ask the CIO through the Honorable Chairperson and also the Chair of Council to deal with the status in terms of the plant desalination, as well as the status of the generators, and then I'll continue with the other questions, if that is fine.
You can continue with all questions that you think that are relevant for you, and then others they will take their intake. Let's not do that. All the leaders who are here, you heard the questions. If you are given a platform, just take all the questions which you think that are relevant to you. Thank you so much to all of you.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. I will continue. In terms of the power, or rather the budget, I think we were asked about the situation with the diesel in line with the consumption of in line with the generators that are on the island, as well as the question obviously relating to the desalination plant. I would like to report that on a month-to-month basis, RIM is spending 600,000, and one of the contributors, other than fueling the plants on the island, this cost also goes towards the power or the generation that's here at the NMG, where we are also based in terms of the point of departure from the waterfront to the island. So the current outages through ESCOM and also load shedding are also a contributing factor in terms of the costs that relate to the diesel. I just want to touch quickly on the question, I think, by still Honorable Mhlongo, in terms of why are we not having a 10-year plan? And we are guided by the current integrated management plan, which is a 5-year plan, and also the annual performance plan, which is a 3-year rolling plan. So from the DSEC as the policy department. So in terms of everything that we do, we try to align our efforts and our plans towards the IMP as well as the APP. There was a question on the 21 million that was made available by the department, and we are pleased to record that due to that 21 million allocation, we were able to save jobs, and that's why currently we are continuing with our operations, and there were no job losses ever since even today. And also part and parcel of the recovery plan that I spoke about, we embarked in terms of a period of 12 months, we embarked on revenue generating strategies that are also currently showing positive spin-offs in terms of the work that we do to make sure that we are sustainable. Honorable Madlingozi raised a question, and I think for me it related to the refurbishment of the dilapidated sites. And as per the report, in terms of the infrastructure program, we have successfully concluded phase 1, and phase 1 is primarily relating to what we call our interpretation sites, which are the visitor sites that the Robben Island visitors engage with in terms of promoting the site. And also, given the fact that we have a total of 479 buildings, through the user asset management plan, that's how we plan on an annual basis. And there's a specific allocation per year. So that's what's limiting us. We would love to reach out all areas at once, but we are then guided by the user asset management plan as per the Giyama Act of DPWI. I will continue. There was a question in terms of the cost of the tombstone for the late Mr. Boy. We can make that available just to respond to that question. And also there was questions by Honorable Zondi in terms of specifically, let me just, oh yes, in terms of the regression, in terms of the audit, and I think Honorable Van Dijk also raised the same question. And also I think Honorable Joseph raised the same question. The real reason why we have seen a regression, and I think to contextualize, this is the finding for 21-22, and the 22-23 audit is currently underway. And the reason for the regression was precisely due to two things. One was the regular expenditure, but also I just want to focus on the cyber attack. And I think it was also Honorable Joseph that asked this question. We are responsible for the management of the GRAP 103, which are the accounting standards in terms of how we record the heritage assets and the value. And as a result, we rely on the ATOM system that is based and housed at the University of the Western Cape because of the fact that Maibuya Archives is based there. So in the 2021-22 financial year and the audit, there was a cyber attack, and when the AG was on site, AG couldn't verify what we reported under the auditing of predetermined objectives or the annual or non-financial performance. And that was one of the contributing factors that made us to regret. But unfortunately, it's a situation that was beyond our control because they are the custodian of the ATOM system. And as a result, in dealing with that risk and the challenge, now RIM has procured servers to the value of 4 million through our ICT department, where we are now bringing that whole function here at the NMG just to obviate that risk that we face that also caused that regression. There was also a request in terms of us providing the monetary value in terms of the concessions and complimentary tickets. We will send that information to the committee in order to quantify the 8,000 odd number that we have reported. There was also a question in terms of, I think it was Honorable Adams as well, in terms of the outstanding EPP interviews. Yes, there's still outstanding interviews. The outstanding provinces are the Northern Cape, Limpopo, and Namibia, given the history associated of Namibia as well associated with the island and the significance of that history. But it's important to indicate to the honorable members that the reason why this project has been delaying, but now it's now back in terms of ensuring that we reach as many EPPs as possible, given that risk, that strategic risk, where we have now insourced the services of former EPPs who are now going to all these provinces to assist us with the interviews. So currently we are not using any service provider, but we are using the EPPs. And the rationale behind using the EPPs is that it's easy for them to engage with each other, and the families that we are interviewing have trust and become comfortable when they're engaging with an EPP, and hence they are very instrumental in the life memorialization project. There was also a question in terms of apologies. Oh yes, there was a question in terms of the appointment process of the acting CFO by Honorable Joseph. The process has been finalized, and now we are at the stage of onboarding of the successful candidate. But also this is tied to the accelerated recruitment project that is currently underway. And this ties to the question that was asked to say, when are we envisaging to fill these positions? Because that's a key determining factor in ensuring that we deliver on our mandate. and we are hoping to finalize by the end of the second quarter. There was also a proposal and a comment for us to exhibit at the waterfront. I just want to indicate to honorable members that the Jetty 1 project is precisely aimed to do that. And there's also concept documents and plans that have been shared, and we are envisaging that project to unfold in the current financial year, even though it will roll until the 24-25 financial year. And we are pleased to report that through the engagements by the Facilities and Infrastructure Unit, if you have noticed, there's now signage towards the NMG building, which was negotiations with the waterfront, because the aim is to assist our visitors to find their way, given our location and positioning of the current gateway to the island. There's also an issue in terms of exploring on electric buses, given our current delivery model in terms of our standard tours on the island. Through the fleet management strategy, we'll be looking at all of that. And it's not only the fleet management strategy, but it's also an investment strategy where we'll look at options, because currently we are owning the fleet that you are seeing, which are the buses and also the ferries, and considering the useful life of assets and their impact in terms of the balance sheet. These are some of the things that we'll be looking at. There was also a question on the improvement in terms of the cost or expenditure. I think this was still by Honorable, I think it was Honorable Joseph, where 90, and the issue was that why the savings in terms of the ferries from 37 million to 7 million. It's because as part and parcel of our APP, our target is to reduce the reliance on the private charter boats until we have stabilized our current operations. And as a result, that has brought spin-offs or positive spin-offs. And then there was also a question on the silent disco. In line with the institutional policies that we have shared, there is a policy that talks to the events policy and protocol policy. So anything that we do when we receive requests, we do it in line with that policy, and part and parcel of the requirement is for a business case to be proposed. But unfortunately, due to the engagements that were underway, the proposed silent disco promoters, so to speak, then went to the media and shared whilst the discussions were underway, because we know that part and parcel of the business case is to also do an environmental impact assessment. And also I spoke about what we call the carrying capacity that also determines the number that will be allowed on the island. So anything that we do is informed by that. I will then go to questions or issues that were raised by Honorable Malomani. I'll just zoom into one which related to the 40-year lease. Currently, we are based at the Nelson Mandela Gateway, which is a building on the waterfront, and currently we are paying rent for that building. And the lease, or the current lease, is left with 17 years of the 40 years. So we need to start thinking about any options, if it were, in making sure that there's the location of the departure point or the gateway is still strategically located. And there was also a question on the projects, or rather employment rather, that was created through the infrastructure projects. Honorable Malomani, the 128 are project-based employment created. So when a project ends, then obviously we release those employed under our different projects. And Honorable Van Dijk asked a question in terms of I think the impact of the current price, which hasn't changed for the past since 2015, on ticket sales, we would also submit that information that has been requested by the honorable member. And the last one relates to the UWC RIM partnership in terms of forward-looking plans. We are happy to report that there has been continuous engagements last year, and this year we were meant to meet and between UWC and RIM, but unfortunately that meeting had to be moved due to availability of members that needed to be part of that task team. And we also are saying that the whole issue of the archives, as the chair has alluded to, is also the current use of the different archival material and artifacts that are at the Maibuye. And as part and parcel of our turnaround, we will be exhibiting based on the different epochs on the island, based on also the themes and events, so as to raise the consciousness, more especially of our youth, to ensure that there is what I will call, their identity in terms of what South Africa means to them as they are the future. So these are some of the initiatives that we are looking at. But also in our report or presentation, we spoke about the 6 intents that were employed under the Unboxing Maibuye project. And as a result, some of the efforts of that project is to digitize and digitalize the archives to ensure access, as definitely access is not necessarily only physical, but also you can access it through alternative means of technology. And that's what we are looking for. I will just pause there, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you.
May I add a point or two that has not been covered, Chairperson?
Yes, please.
With the current state of ticket sales, the target that we have given the management, which they've gladly accepted, is to move that upward and ensure that a baseline of 300,000 visitors is achieved as soon as possible, hopefully in this current financial year. We also want to point out that in all our activities, particularly those concerning visitor experience, concerning engagement with the various formations of ex-political prisoners under the leadership of the Association of Ex-Political Prisoners, that has been underway, and we have much better relationships, and we hope they will be exceedingly good during this financial year, because we have asked them to participate at particular activities, and they appreciate that the management and council has been welcoming of them. Many of us know that it's been a torrid relationship. The Association of Ex-Political Prisoners understands that whenever there is negative publicity associated with Robben Island, it impacts all of us in the country. Not only our national and iconic site, but also our World Heritage Site status. And we want to reiterate that we leave no one behind. All sectors of society that have a link with the rich, long history of Robben Island will be engaged and accommodated. But if we don't know X or Y foundation or entity out there, we invite any knowledge of those persons and entities so that we can formally engage with them and create the kind of partnerships that will see Robben Island being a visible experience of our history past and reshaping a democratic culture where there is better understanding, where the kinds of canceling, I'm using a word that young people use, the cancel culture that was rife during COVID, it also becomes a thing of the past, that we can learn from the lessons of all our leadership across the liberation spectrum, and those who were in Robben Island and other sites of banishment and imprisonment, that those messages help to create citizenship. We look at ourselves as South Africans first, then we call ourselves by whatever other nomenclature, by a religion or a language or ethnicity. We don't have that sense of nationhood, and Robben Island is determined to play its role in the quest for ensuring that as a nation, we move forward into the next decade of democracy. Thank you, Chairperson.
Is any intake?
Chairperson, can we address the questions that were addressed to the department?
Oh, please, Acting DG, no problem.
Thank you very much. There was a question from Honorable Mhlongo on the issue of the percentage versus numbers. Mr. Nzanyane would respond to that question, Chair. I wanted to also just talk to, even though it was a comment from Honorable Zondi with regard to close monitoring of entities. And Honorable Zondi, when you quote me like that, it puts me in a corner. But indeed, what we committed to be doing as a department, we are continuing with particular focus on the issues that emerged from the last AG findings, but also other performance and governance issues. We have made this a standing item in our executive management team meetings and deal with these matters at technical level in terms of the monitoring. However, I also wanted to indicate that at the level of ministry, Minister and Deputy Minister are convening a meeting with all the entities. I believe it is scheduled for the 2nd of June or at the beginning of June, where Minister will be meeting with all the chairpersons and the CEOs of entities, all 28 of them, and they will be accounting on these matters as part of signing the shareholder compact as well. And then, Chairperson, there was a question or questions with regard to the Sarah Batman Legacy Project. I don't think it's in our presentation, Chair. If it is, it might have been a gremlin. I don't know how it would have made it to this presentation. Sarah Batman is a separate legacy project, as members would be aware. And we can provide, if required, those particular responses if at all we get that kind of a request, Chairperson. But I just wanted to indicate that Robben Island doesn't project manage or manage at all Sarah Batman, but it's a completely separate project. It doesn't fall under this one, but we do have answers to the questions that Honorable Member was making a reference to. I think lastly, before Mr. Nzanyane, from Honorable Malumane, indeed the issue of the interdepartmental interventions was one of the key decisions that came out of the meeting that was led by the Minister and the Deputy Minister on the 8th of June. Oh, sorry, on the 8th of May. And what was decided is what Deputy Minister and Minister just briefly referred to. I don't know whether Deputy Minister will also further expand, because it actually brings on board all those departments that you also made reference to, Honorable Member, but not just at the level of the Deputy Ministers. We also at a technical level then provide support and feed into that interdepartmental ministerial structure that is made up of deputy ministers. I don't know whether Deputy Minister would want or Minister would then want to further expand on that. But through you, Chair, if you allow Mr. Zanyana then to talk to the percentage versus numbers with regard to council meetings. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, ATG. Thank you, Honorable Chair, and also greetings to Mr. Deputy Minister, Council of Robben Island and colleagues present. Just the issue of percentages, we do this to track, in actual fact, the attendance behavior, for the lack of a better word, of council members, but this does not translate to a single particular member, but it's just to track across the number of council meetings that have been planned to see what was the attendance like. So, and then we average that per financial year. But the figures in terms of attendance by each member and the number of meetings is available and also is reflected in the annual report with the audited figures, which then shows the number of meetings each individual has attended. I think that's the detail that maybe would need to include in future, or maybe send separately so that members can see the attendance by each council members, which is the information that is also available in the audit report. But the percentage is just averaging in terms of at a given moment, a council meeting is attended, it correlates, and if you average the number of meetings, then you get a percentage as to how the meetings are attended. Just to monitor that, because if then the attendance rate or behavior then goes down to your 50%, then you'll get worried, because it will indicate that the attendance of members is not to a desirable effect. But also there was another question by Honorable Adam, which was talking on the issue of expertise as listed in the presentation. The expertise, those are the qualifications and experience of council members. They do not necessarily refer to their responsibilities in council. So those are the expertise that are taken into account when council committees are constituted. So that I think that I hope that clarifies in that regard. Thank you, Chair.
The Ministry, Minister or Deputy Minister, do you want to say something?
Just to say a few things here. Thank you very much. The deputy maybe also to speak on her behalf, because she's responsible for this important historic heritage site and other heritage sites. Firstly, just to thank and commend members for their very constructive comments and their acknowledgement of the significance of this historic site and in terms of our history as well as our future. Our view is that in our last visit, what is noticeable, which we recognize and acknowledge, that indeed there is a steady progress to turn around the entity. I think we can say comfortably, Chairperson and members of the committee, we have indeed achieved step one towards functionality of the entity. Step one being that you will need firstly to stabilize. You need stability in the leadership. I think both the council as well as the EXCO, we do get a sense that that stability does exist. And therefore you may look at other issues you may now talk about a second step such as sustainability and so on, which I'll say something briefly about them. I think there is good progress under the leadership of Prof. Cooper, as well as a new CEO as well, noting though a number of other comments and observations and concerns which we did share both with the council as well as and the management when we last met. Our view is that this is the soul of this site is the soul of our democracy. Its history is a history that defines the future of our generation, the future of our dreams. And therefore, we dare not fail for the sake of our generations to look after this site. However, there are a number of issues that the current leadership has got to address. And I'm sure under Prof. Cooper, as well as the CEO, as well as the entire management, they are capable to consider. They are faced with a binary. The binary on one hand is that appreciating the fact that they can no longer rely on the fiscus to run this business entity on one hand, but on the other hand, which is another binary, is that they cannot, obviously, for obvious reasons, we cannot go on a wholesale privatization of the entity. At the same time, you don't want to deny access to the historic disadvantage, access to this historic site. And therefore, the question about sustainability becomes important. And I think in the presentations about financial model, which must make sure that you address this binary I'm talking about, both the CFO as well as the CEO, as well as Prof. Cooper, are quite alert to these challenges. Hence the issues about creating maybe certain categories, if you like, in terms of ticketing, hence the idea of concession of ticketing and so on. I've visited the Nelson Mandela Gateway a few times since our visit. I've seen even as we disembarked from the trip, there was a long queues of people going that side. And I think from a point of view, I mean, Robben Island, like many other entities, were badly affected by COVID, is picking up. There is no doubt about it. But behind that picking up, there is a vision, there's a leadership. And I think it is that leadership that requires all our support. I must thank the intervention and the leadership of Deputy Minister, because one of the limitations and the weakness in the past, government, there are so many entities involved, besides the fact that there are so many pieces of legislation involved in Robben Island. But I think DM has been able to coordinate all of that. And I think I must thank you for that. Hence, I'll also say something on her behalf, because I think it is that work that we realize, having spent hours with the management and the leadership there, that there are so many departments that are doing almost the same thing, which creates a lot of confusion and it delays implementation and it delays decision-making and makes it impossible for a structure such as RIM to function maximally. And I think given that intervention, a coordination of government departments, agencies, and entities, we should be able to come back to the portfolio committee and say, this is the progress we have made. What is our expectation? I think the expectation is not only to see South Africans, visitors, and everybody. We also expect in future, Chairperson, that the meetings such as this will also have an in-person meeting in Robben Island. Portfolio committee have a meeting. We hope that will be a good start. We also have upward as well. The upper structures of government will also, as part of build up to the 30th anniversary, will not only visit, but will also go to have meetings and activities, where they're talking about cabinet committees, as well as cabinet at some point, to visit this historic site. Because I think it's important to do so, because generations to come must appreciate that history. And it's only through leadership, that through practical expression, that we must be present at Robben Island. So indeed, Chair, we're quite confident that we are turning, there is a turnaround strategy, as well as that I think we have achieved certain milestones to where we are, or what we need to do now is to ramp up some of the milestones and build on the work that already were indicated. For an example, the number of visitors, the management in terms of finances, the leadership, and a number of other stakeholders, including the ex-Robben Islanders. And I think that work is that well coordinated by Deputy Minister. And thank you very much. I must apologize upfront on behalf of the presenters, we thought we should give you this detailed presentation. You can use the documents presented to members as a base document, because I think it was important for this discussion to indicate and show progress that we're talking about, so that it's not just an expression that we say in the meeting, but it is also shown in the document that indeed there is progress from the last time in terms of the management of the institution. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Honorable DM.
No, Chair, I'm sufficiently covered by the minister. I don't have anything to say. He has represented me very well. Thank you so much.
Sufficient. Yes, thank you, DM. Honorable members, this is what we wanted to hear today. And I'm suspecting that this leadership of RIM, even in the question of questions, you were so detailed. By doing so, I am now coming to the stage that this part of the meeting we've done with it. And with my closing remarks, we are looking forward to see that the mandate that UDM has been given, that it must be workable. And we do trust you, DM, that you will never fail us. And I'm suspecting, being you, DM, with your skills, you'll whip them. And you know, even the last time that you were part of this department, you were aware that it was not our present department even then, that the coordination or the work was not thorough done. That's why as this committee, we came back and report, as now also we're doing that, continuing reporting the gaps that we've done. We even proposed then that would love to see if these monies that they are being given, which you department, you didn't have any authority to take the monies from special public works to our proposal. We wished that the department can also manage this 111 million then, but it's true the treasurer's view that it's not for our department, but through the ministry, to you, Minister and DM, we are having hope that this important place with this leadership that are with us, who are seeing that something is going to happen. With those words, I'm thanking the initiative that you have taken, the ministry, that even before they come here, you were doing rounds and you also prioritize this visit to RIM. On behalf of the committee, we are releasing you all.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Slalo.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, leadership. Honorable members, we still have a few minutes to finalize our work. We've got sets of minutes. Whilst they are flighting, honorable members, I didn't put in the agenda. Agenda is already tabled. Whilst we are looking at these minutes, I want immediately after the minutes to have something to say to honorable members. These are minutes of 12 May. Let's look at them, honorable members. Go on. Move with the minute.
Yes, Chairperson, I'm just having a problem a bit. Can I just be given 2 minutes, 2 seconds actually? I'm just.
Okay. Whilst that 2 seconds, honorable members, the members who were present on Friday in our physical meeting, I'm suspecting we consulted with those who were around. We were discussing the agenda out in our program of Friday. Friday, we're expected to have what is this?
Chess South Africa, Madam Chair.
Come again.
Chess South Africa. Chess South Africa. Madam.
According to our program, which were adopted, but Chess South Africa, honorable members, are under administration, and we took a decision with the members who were present that we don't see need to call them. We don't know the status that they will coming with, and then we consulted each other, but we want to again pronounce here that we are agreed that we are not going to have that meeting until further notice from SASCOC and our department. Until then, we are not going to be with Chess South Africa. Honorable members, these are minutes of the 12th. Yes, go up. Honorable members, these are minutes. I would love to say I'm presenting the minutes to you, leadership, Honorable Adams, Honorable Zondi, Honorable Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson. That is a true reflection of the minutes, and I therefore move for the adoption of the minutes. I thank you.
I do hear you, but I don't know whether other members are hearing you. You are like that, you are in the team. Honorable Adams is saying that he's proposing the adoption of the minutes. Honorable Zondi. Honorable Zondi seconded the minutes. So the minutes are seconded and now agreed to. Can you put the second set of minutes? Honorable members, we are putting the minutes of the 16th. Can honorable members reflect? Honorable members, our longest minutes, but surely we were all there and contributed. I'm presenting these minutes to you. Can I give it to Honorable Sibia?
Thanks, Chairperson. I would like to adopt the minutes as a true reflection. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Sibia. Honorable Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I second on the proposal of adoption of the minutes. I thank you.
The minutes are being adopted. Can I say that thank you to you, honorable members, that you're always attending the meetings and your valuable contribution is always appreciated. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chairperson.